Hello everyone. So with the remaining daylight, I would like to explain how to port over some of the advanced object-oriented features from Java to C++. And in particular, I'll be focusing on inheritance today. So I'm starting with a class which is of type person. And this is just a class that for now is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to store a name and an age. And the constructor just passes them right along. There's also a method celebrate birthday that when you call it, it adds one to the age. And I'll add a method to print the info. So I'm doing something very similar to what I did on the inheritance module in Java, which was module number 4, if you want to look back at that. So I'm using C++'s version of output called IOStream, so I have to say include IOStream and then using namespace std, using the standard namespace. And then I can just write cout. I'll write the name of the person, is age years old. So this is a way of doing output in C++. You chain these little segments of the output string one after the other, and you can do that. Okay, and I guess I'll make, just to make sure this is working, I'll say person Chris. I'll make a static object here. Their name is Chris, age is 31, and then I'll say chris.printinfo. I jumped the gun a little bit here. Let me change this back to private for a second. We haven't talked about protected in C++ yet, although it's very, very similar. Okay, so let me just run this. And you see that it prints out information about Chris. Okay, so everything has been a review so far. But now I want to do exactly what I did in that Java module and say, well, I want to reuse a lot of this code. And I wanted to reuse it in making a student class, which is just a more specific version of a person. So I'm going to make a student class. And I want to share most of this code. The only thing I want to do is specify one additional variable, which is the class here. Okay, so I would like to have this extend. So in Java, I said public class student extends person. That's how I did it. That's how I inherited from the person class when I made this. Here the syntax is slightly different. So I say colon public person. Okay. So that's really what this means. I can also then define a private variable, which is the class here. I'll make it a string. And then I can define a constructor. So the constructor is going to take 3 parameters now. So the name, the age, and the class year. Of course, I have to change this to student. Okay. So this has pretty much everything we need. Maybe we'll override this in a moment, but let's just make sure we get the basic inheritance down. So remember back in Java, if we did not have a default constructor that took 0 arguments, then we had to call super, right? We had to call a constructor in the parent class. So I would want to say something like super name age. So that would, in Java, that would call the parent constructor. And it would do this. It would set the name to name and the age to age. And then I would just say, do whatever is left, which is to save the class here. Okay. Let's try it. Let's see if that works. So, nope. Okay, so a couple problems. One, it actually tells us kind of what Java used to tell us, like, look, you don't have a default constructor for the person class. So you're going to have to do something. Well, we tried to do that, but it told us super. There is no word super. Yeah, so super is not a thing in Java. Or sorry, super is not a thing in C++. In Java, it's a thing. But there is no superclass in C++. The reason is because C++ actually allows multiple inheritance. So you have to specify which class you're referring to. Now here there's only one class that I'm inheriting from, just the person class. Maybe I'll show an example of multiple inheritance in a moment, but here we're still just inheriting from one class. So you can't say super, you actually have to specify the name. And the syntax is, well, before the body of this method, you say colon. So the way you do it for constructor, you say colon, and then you say the name of the class that you are inheriting from. And so now I'm going to call that constructor. So there I can pass along the name and the age. And I should be good to go. Okay, cool. So I got rid of all those nasty errors. Remember, C++ gives you a ton of errors for like simple things that you do wrong, because it just gets very confused. All right, so that's how you call the superclass constructor. Just as a sanity check, I will just change the type of Chris to student. It's not going to let me go here because I need another parameter. Okay. So it says no matching function call. I need to then pass along the class here. I'll say I'm a sophomore. And now it compiles just fine. If I run it, it says Chris is 31 years old because I'm still using the print info method from the superclass. Okay, so let's say I want to overwrite the print info method. So what I'll do, it'll be mostly the same, but I can put their name, I can put their class here in parentheses. So I'll put their name, and then in parentheses, I'll put the class here. And then I'll end parentheses. Okay, so let's see. That should now print stuff out, although there's a little issue, as we'll see. So let me try to compile that. Uh-oh. It said name and age are declared private. So this is the same thing in C++ as it was in Java. If we're going to inherit from this class and want to refer to those variables in the subclass, then we need to make these protected. So it's just the same as the public and the private blocks. There's a whole block of protected stuff. So now this should be okay. Okay, so now if I say person, then it actually uses the correct type here. All right. Now, okay, so that's the basics of inheritance. What if I wanted to, though, call this version like a superclass version of print info? And then I want to print the class here. Okay, so what I would do is I would say, kind of the same thing. I have to specify the name of the class. So I'll say person colon print info. Okay, so let me just check to make sure that that does that. Ah, it says segmentation fault. Do I need 2 colons? I think I needed 2 colons. Yeah, there we go. Okay. See, you can get segmentation faults some weird ways here. You have to be careful. So yeah, anyway, I have to say person colon print info, and then it'll call the parent class method on this. It's like saying super.printinfo. So I could do that, and then I can maybe on the next line I'll say cout class year colon class year. ENDL stands for line break in IOStream. Okay, so let's check this. So now when I call the student classes print info, it'll call the person classes print info first, and then it will do something else after that. So that's cool. Okay, so let's just take a moment to let that sink in, and just a quick exercise on that, and we'll keep going.